At some point, and it's like two verses in the Bible, but we don't know how long it was. At some point, Moses, while he's kind of wandering in the wilderness, he comes upon this well, and while he's at the well, he sees 7 sisters who are drawing water for their flocks. While they're drawing water for their flocks, a group of shepherds comes up and chases these women away from the well. And so Moses, being the guy who takes the law into his own hands, he reacts and he chases the shepherds off so that the sisters can water their flocks. When the sisters return home, their father asks them, "How is it that you finished so quickly?" Here's what they said: "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." I read that. I thought, an Egyptian. Moses was not an Egyptian, yet Moses still bore all the markings and the markers of an Egyptian. He dressed like, looked like, moved like, sounded like an Egyptian, because at that point he had come from Egypt, but he had yet to come out of Egypt. And so he has to spend some time in the wilderness. 40 years, incidentally. He has to spend some time in the wilderness working the Egypt out of him before God can say to him, "Moses, go tell Pharaoh I said, let my people go." To which Moses responds, "But God, I am slow of speech." Now, I have preached that passage wrong over and over again. There's so many theologians that when they read that in the English, they will tell you, and they will write, they'll put it in print and all kinds of books, that when it says, "I am slow of speech," that what that meant was that Moses stuttered. But it does not say one time, not anywhere in the Hebrew Bible, that Moses stuttered or that he stammered. In fact, Moses was being groomed, he was being raised in the palace, was being prepared for the possibility of being Pharaoh. And the Egyptians would never, never, never have accepted someone who stuttered or stammered to become Pharaoh, because Pharaoh was God on earth. He was without flaw, he was without blemish, he was without spot or without wrinkle. And so when Exodus says that Moses said to God, "I am slow of speech," I wonder if Moses knew that after 40 years of being in the wilderness, Egypt had worked itself out of him so much that he was actually slow of their speech. Because when he surrenders a little bit later, he surrenders and he submits himself to God's plan. And when he goes back to Egypt, to the very place where he grew up, enters into the very palace where he grew up, Scripture says that Pharaoh did not recognize him. Pharaoh did not recognize a person who he grew up with, because Moses no longer bore the markings or the markers of an Egyptian. He no longer dressed like, looked like, moved like, sounded like an Egyptian, because now he hadn't come from Egypt, he had come out of Egypt. And so when he said, "I am slow of speech," God said, "Good, because I don't need to use your words. I need you to use my words."